so much of my show has been predicated on the regionalism of music in this country, and one of the most fertile grounds for that music occurred in the Crescent City of New Orleans. And today, that really is one of the only remaining regional centers of music in the world. Since interconnection, especially as it relates to jazz or instrumental improvisational music, there's been a homogenization of sound. It's hard to tell who anybody is anymore. That could be singers, it could be instrumentalists, and you hearken back to a day when you had, Peter Chuck Beatty or Ed Blackwell or the Neville Brothers, or people prided themselves on individual sound. In fact, if somebody came up to a musician and said, "Hey, you sounded great. You sounded just like so and so," they'd want to slit their wrists. Yet today,
so right.
It seems like most cats are going into the academy. They're going into universities, and while there are still amazing teachers, and I'm glad they're earning a paycheck, it's very hard for me to understand how they can educate younger cats when they themselves had a completely different way of being taught by their mentors and elders. And so I continue to do my show in this effort to create new stories, new history, and wisdom that can be spread to future generations about the understanding about how real music is made. Angelle Trosclair, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored to be here.
It's such an honor to have you, and I appreciate you taking the time. I just wanted you to sort of talk to the audience about, from the earliest times that you were on the bandstand, did people try to pigeonhole you? How did you learn to be a bit of a chameleon within, as Johnny V says, the music racket?
Well, coming up when I did, Johnny and I are the same age. In fact, I'm 2 weeks older than him. and like we had, the way we learned music was in grammar school. There was a music teacher, and now all grammar schools don't have music teachers. And basically, I learned classical music, and Johnny got proficient too. But anyway, we got into a Dixieland band called Dunc's Honky Tonks. And so we went from classical music, basically legitimate music, whatever you want to call it, to Dixieland. And then all the time we were playing Dixieland, we were saying, "Well, what's next? What's next?" And then, let's learn bebop. Then we wanted to swing, and then we wanted to bop. I was 11 years old when I started playing in bands. And I met so many musicians. I played with so many musicians that I really became very, very, very famous. But anyway, so we went to Loyola University. It's normal progression. And we played swing band and bebop and 12-tonal music. And also we played, I was going to say 12 nights a week, 6 nights a week.
4 sets a night. But 4 sets a week.
Playboy Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, it was just, every night was like, was a lesson, it's like, and Frank Mazzullo played piano, and I'm thinking some other people.
No, I mean, we're not gonna rush into this, because I have, I want to go back, because you're, and believe me, anything that I say to you, whatever comes to your mind, just riff. You don't have to answer the question, but I mean, ultimately, when you would go into a record store, you might find, talk about the experience of non-genre categorized music. Like, you could go in and find a Count Basie record, and then there's a Blackwood Brothers record, and then there's a Weavers record. I'm not doing it out, but it was all just like, here's A, B, C, D. And so what I'm trying to get at is this idea of, what would be your advice to younger cats about not being pigeonholed? Because I listen to you sing, and it spans all music, and that's because, it was the Duke Ellington School back when you were coming up.
It was, but there was so many gigs. We played so many different types of music. I hadn't really gotten there yet, but even all the time we were playing jazz at the Playboy Club, there were other gigs. There were rock gigs, and there were legitimate gigs, and that's because being from New Orleans and being ingrained in it, it's just all around you, and it's you knew what kind of gig it was going to be. So consequently, you ended up getting a well-rounded kind of feel for everything, and a kind of confidence too. That like when I had the opportunity of and Johnny too, with Earl Turbington and Julius Former and who are just incredible jazz musicians, but they all had a certain concept. Like Earl Turbington was a certain concept.
What was no? I want to go back, dude. The reason those guys are monsters. Earl Turbington. I just found this. I mean, I'm not he's a legend. I'm not somebody who's like throwing on BB King records all the time. But there's this session from L.A. from '72, and it's like all the baddest blues cats from Watts, like Mel Brown, and then on this one track, Earl Turbington. I'm like, how hip is that? I mean, those. When I interviewed Ellis Marsalis, I mean, to go back to that Chitlin circuit, I mean, I was like, yo, did you play, like where the black clubs or, and and he was like, I was like, what about James Brown? He's like, I knew him as Jimmy Brown. It's like, so it's like this idea of what was Turbington's, there was also All for One Records with Ellis and Ed Blackwell and it just was the heaviest
Black.
Thank you, James Black. James Black got busted when Charlie Neville got busted for 2 joints. He went to Angola, and the first person that he met there was James Black. I mean, it seemed to me like there was. I know we're jumping around here. Talk about Turbington's concept of jazz.
Music?
Yeah.
Of jazz. I'll give you a great example. Like we go to a gig because he had a band called I was a keyboard player and the singer.
Wow.
With this group that he called the Nucleus.
Oh my God! Get me the tapes of this band, dude.
It was incredible, and sometimes his brother Willie, Willie T is.
Oh my God, the Gators, yeah.
He would play, and I would stand up and sing. But the thing is that we go to practice, and he said, "Okay, here's the chart. Nobody play any E's. Play any and believe me, you think that's easy, but it wasn't. But it opened you up to like the freedom of okay, throw away the ABA, ABA, just go head out there, just don't play any E's. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot, and it forced you into playing stuff that you wouldn't normally play. That's just one example. Or sometimes he had like some little mantras that he was working on. Earl Turbington was Rosicrucian kind of oriented, and he's very spiritual.
What spirituality is that? I've never heard of that religion or spirit.
Well, it's I can't rate on it because I don't know that much about it because I haven't really traveled around. But it's esoteric. Let's put it.
Well, no, I did. No, I consider myself a Kabbalistic Sufi, so it's always about like merging these spirits. But it sounds to me, even though you're putting this like late '60s kind of area, is that right?
We're talking about 71 or something.
Right. So we're talking like we're talking like the major cats, that were playing like. It was not necessarily in New Orleans, but it was like, you had Sam Rivers and, Clifford Jarvis. And
Miles Davis.
It was just that they were redefining. This was more like post-bop modal, like when he would do these sort of Zen master tricks on the bandstand. The music was being, new vocabulary was being added to the music at that time.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't like momentary, but it was momentary. But it was it was universal at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh yeah.
You know, because it was the spur of the moment. But it stayed with you. You know, so well, okay, well that's definitely a concept. You know, but other things. That's just one of the people that I play with. But I remember Earl was very creative as far as helping you get over the inhibition of improvising.
God, I just missed this. So how basically he would, and explain how he would push you out of your comfort zone, because, I mean, would he just say, take as many bars as you want? I mean, to me, it's like, that to me is the essence of growth as a musician or in life, is just being pushed out of your comfort zone, but in a way where you're inspired by it and not defeated by it.
Yeah, I can give you another great example. Henry Butler. I used to sing. Well, I had a band together called The Third Eye. And
oh dear, Butler, my God, where are the tapes of this stuff? I need to hear this stuff.
I don't have any records of it, but it's playing in my mind.
Yeah,
every moment of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I carry it around with me. But I said that to say this. James Black played drums, and Earl Turbington played on the gig.
Are you kidding?
And,
oh my God.
And Henry Butler and Julius Farmer at the Lou and Charlie's.
Was Henry Butler? What instrument did he play?
He played piano. Oh my God! Look up Henry Butler.
No, I know.
He's passed on already. He's already passed on, but he's a blind piano player.
Wow.
But incredible technique, but incredibly, just anyway, very innovative. A lot of leading chromatic concept kind of scales.
This is why I cannot believe the record button wasn't on for The Third Eye. I mean, this is ridiculous. Anyway, so go. No, I want you to finish. I want you to finish this story though. So how did he?
Anyway, one night I was at I was singing with them at Lou and Charlie's, and I got into a thing of singing them up a higher register because when I went to college, it was a coloratura soprano. So anyway, and the soprano saxophones would play those high notes. So I want to play those too. But anyway, I was singing with them, and all of them took off in a different direction. And the only thing that was left was those notes way on top of everybody. And I just belted them out. And after that, man, I had it. I knew how to sing up there.
I love that. You found the register.
That moment.
Yeah.
It was an incredible moment in my life.
You
just go, I'm somewhere new. I was in another space. I truly was. But just think about those musicians. James Black, Julius Farmer, Earl Turbington, and Henry Butler. Whoo! I can't believe the company that I was keeping.
Well, I mean, they
great, wonderful people.
Going back for a minute, he's in my heart today for some reason. But I really, I'm obsessed with that time period of, more like early '60s. A lot of jug bands, a lot of folk music, and you had. You had the old wash tub bass, and I remember when I did my interview with my dear soul uncle AJ DeSherry, he was lugging that wash tub bass.
Man.
All right,
AJ played with Don Thompson.
I know, and that's why I wanted you to talk about the time. I know you guys were 11 years old and playing for the Lighthouse for the Blind, and you were doing all this stuff, but I just really want you to talk about that time feel with the tub and Johnny.
The
tub,
and
man.
Johnny, well, the thing is that this is before Earl Turbington. That's the esoteric time.
I know.
We're talking about the Dixieland, the roots of jazz, I guess. Because
absolutely. I know. I mean, it's one of the streams. Anyway, yeah.
Well, that's another story. But the tub. You see, I lived like right two houses away from this old man Duncan, who had this band, and he had a junkyard. and anyway, and he had like 4 or 5 different kids band. It was incredible. And I went to audition for the band, and I got in the band. But there was always a tub player on the job, and I was always really fascinated. AJ DeSherry, I'm telling you, he made that thing sound exactly like a bass.
Dude, I know that dude was the nastiest tub player ever, dude.
I'm telling you. And he's the funniest guy too.
I love the dude. So I'm going to send you some. I'll text you some of these interviews are going to make you crack up because that to me was an amazing time. I also, you guys were making a little bit of bread at that time. Were you part of the union or was he just paying you cash?
Oh, when you got in the band, you couldn't get paid for 6 months. But then after that, you got a little envelope with some cash in it.
Oh my God! Come on! This is the point. This is what you said earlier. That was through all this riffing. You know what it is? It is crazy because what was going on then is that not only were there so many gigs, but you didn't have to lug merchandise to the gig in order to make money. You got paid for the gig itself. That is fundamentally what's changed in our culture now, is that there's no money to to work. Somehow it's been construed, oh, music is a musician's gift to the world. Oh, you can pay to play, or you can play for the door, and you can sell your CDs, and if you're lucky, you make a little bit of money. When you were coming up, not only was the cost of living low, but even the fact is you could get ahead as a working musician.
Yeah. Basically, old man Duncan had these Marco Polo pianos, they're little pianos. He had a great big green truck, and he took the piano to the gigs that didn't have pianos, and so that was the lugging stuff around. That was probably the only thing, but he had a big green truck. But you're right about the cost of living and when you got your money, you got your money. But the thing is, that there'd be like an envelope with like about $40. I mean, for an 11-year-old kid, that's a lot of money.
That's like a few $100s in today's money.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but I've gone on gigs, especially rock and roll gigs. You got to pay the equipment man, you got to pay and by the time you get over, you're lucky if you make $40.
Right.
I mean, I hate
Right.
to say that, but that's really true.
I just go on the road. I live in Tucson, and I'll go on the road, or even I'll go on the road to my road dog friends who are doing it, and they might put 1,000 people in a place one night, and they're not getting much of anything for the gig. They have to get off the bandstand. They have no roadies, so they have to set everything up. They have to burn for 2.5 hours. Then they get off the bandstand and be completely hospitable and sell merchandise. And if they do okay, they might make a little bit of dough. But it's like, it's not a sustainable model anymore. And I remember
No, it's not.
Charlie Persip, I don't know if you ever ran into him, great drummer with Dizzy and Hall of Fame, insane drummer. And he said that when he was on the road with Dizzy, they would get in fights with promoters or people at the venues. They say, oh, you're playing music. And they're like, we're not playing, man. We're working our asses off. Somehow that word play got into it being like, oh, this is fun for them. This isn't really work. And fundamentally it's gone from $40 after 6 months with Old Man Dunc. And, and now it's like, you're lucky if you walk out of a gig today with, $50, $100, and in today's world, that's like a tank of gas. So
That was 50 years ago. Be honest.
Yeah, I'm curious about other, sort of, not necessarily that you worked with, but Old Man Duncan was such a throwback, and this is like 63, 64 era kind of time,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering about other, even if they were never people that you necessarily, like there was a guy in Detroit named Washboard Willie, and nobody really ever heard of this guy, but he would be back when Detroit was just a cauldron of activity, and Tamla and Motown was starting to cook, and James Jamerson, he was the favorite, Washboard Willie was his favorite musician to play with, and I just wonder about those sort of other iconic acoustic folk, or even just black or just any color musicians that you were inspired by at that time, because it was still, the Beatles had been on the Ed Sullivan Show, but most people weren't really plugging in yet. You had a lot of beautiful conversational acoustic jazz going on, but this is well before electric fusion. So besides Old Man Duncan, were there other sort of elders that you looked up to, even if they were playing on the street corner or just playing their asses off on a washboard?
Well, when the kids' band kind of burned down, and old man Duncan wasn't doing it anymore, which is, I guess, in high school, getting into college. I mean, it was such a nucleus of musicians that were involved with the whole thing that we sort of get bands together, and stuff like that. Like Charlie, I don't know if you know Charlie Brandt.
Oh, no. I mean, Alan Robinson and I paid homage to him a few months ago when I was in New Orleans. The guy was a genius.
I was engaged to him a long time ago.
Really? But bless that. Man, you can spend some time riffing on him because I know that, I mean, I'm not like obsessive, but just in general, there was nobody that looked up to him more than Jocko,
Oh, absolutely. And there was so many people before Jocko.
Absolutely. No, I know that. I know.
When I met Charlie Brandt, I think I was a freshman in college, and he was such an incredible genius. He had all of Charlie Parker stuff. He had all that stuff. He had that stuff memorized, and he had it all written down. And he played alto. He played tenor saxophone. He was an incredible guitar player. Of course, he could play anything. But he wrote for the jazz band, which was like a 21-piece band, and he would just write out a transpose score. I was his copyist, So, and he would always wait like till the night before, and Charlie, give me some time to do this, and but he always liked to work under pressure, and he just write it out, right out of his head. It's like I was always really.
It's funny. I was talking to my older daughter. She's about to leave for college, and it's always just like envy of those people who so brilliant. And, I'm sure he was gigging a lot, but he would basically procrastinate, and when the pressure built enough, he could just let it come through him, and he would just knock out a massive composition the night before. Of course, it was hard for you to transcribe it, but
spent many nights up
the
whole night getting it done. But the thing is that it's just that he was so much of a genius. In my lifetime, all the people that I've known, I think he was the genius in my life, because I've known a lot of people, but not like him. He was a genius when he was in high school, and he knew all this stuff in high school, the Lydian chromatic concept, And,
dude, he was straight out of the George Russell playbook. I mean, the guy knew it.
George Russell. Yeah. I mean, he laid I think it might have been the first week that Charlie Brandt even met me. He laid that whole book on me.
Oh my gosh!
And I was like, my mind has still been blown ever since then. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's a wiggy concept, but I've come to the conclusion that after the fact, you can describe music that way. But while you're doing it, it's really hard to hear it that way. But he heard it that way too. So like he was there. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, were you in those? So he was also singing. I mean, you played piano, but was he also? Were you singing?
Oh, I was singing. I was singing at the Playboy Club, and basically, I'm known as a singer. I went with Epic Records eventually, and I made a couple of records. One of them was released, but and really wasn't what I wanted to do, but what I had to do. Because I ended up in L.A. by myself. I really didn't have all those musicians around me. Although Lon Price came out there. We're skipping around now.
No, it's fine. No, I want to go back to the idea of Charlie's compositions. I mean, at that...
Charlie's compositions,
because, that time, if you go across, I mean, also, like, was... I just know that Roberta Flack, it's a little bit before you went to Loyola, but she went to Howard University, which is an all-black school. They wouldn't teach jazz there. Eddie Henderson was practicing Killer Joe in '64 in the practice room, and a sheriff and the security guard came and said, "I'll kill you if I hear that another note come out of your horn." That's end music. Was there an issue with? I seem to remember Johnny talking about that. It was a little bit hard because it was more of a choral, I don't want to say gospel vibe, but they weren't that into the blues and Loyola.
Well, Not really. It wasn't a blues band. Like the stage band, we had to, we had to have like the state of the art. I mean, whatever writing, 12 tonal stuff, real impressive kind of stuff, and there was sections within those compositions where we got to jam out on, and of course we jammed out together too. But as far as the Loyola music, the actual Loyola, while that was going on, the stage band, we were the Saints band for like forever. It was the first band they ever had. That was another gig. I mean, all these gigs were going on at the same time.
But you mean you were doing you were doing the half times at Tulane Stadium, playing singing and.
Yeah, we played before the gig, and we used Charlie's his book with a stage band, and I know I had like a whole book of vocal charts.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. You're talking about before an NFL football game. You're playing very intellectual third stream music.
Excellent stuff. I mean, it was hot.
My God, this is insane.
We changed things. Previous to us coming to Loyola, the name of the band was the Campus Capers. So that should say enough for it.
My God.
Group, but went from the Campus Capers to Loyola Stage Band. And then we won a whole bunch of, went to Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and Chicago and Little Rock, Arkansas. Went on little jazz festivals and everything. We entered everything. And we were really good for the school, and we ended up raising a lot of money, and they got the music school. And we all graduated, and we just remember the old school where, it was falling down, but that was more fun, I think. But anyway.
So this is
that's another thing.
No, this is like so profound and actually just so enlightening. I wonder about. I wanted to ask you a few more things, sort of related to. Did you get a chance? Were you old enough to go to Hayes's Chicken Shack?
I don't remember going there.
Yeah, so that was where like Elvin would play. He had to tie like a rope around his drums so he wouldn't slide around, and Train would play there. This was like 64, 65.
Oh, yeah, with the chicken wire.
Yes. Hayes's Chicken Shack.
I never went there, but, I always heard these stories.
Was it, were you able to, like, can you talk about how the music, I remember Cyril Neville, I mean, again, this is more like the 60s. I mean, he said he'd have to go through his neighborhood, he'd be stopped by the same cop 5 times in 10 minutes. And I wonder about, just, if you talk to the audience, that's going to hear this around the world, how the music community, how the music helped break down, if it did, break down the segregation. Because Mac Rebenak told me, there was a black union and there was a white union.
Yeah, it used to be.
And yet you were playing with all the cats, including Turbington and Willie T. And, who knows, and so do you feel like it was obviously a force for good, but especially within New Orleans, how did the music transcend the racism?
Well, I think that the music was the bridge and the gap, and the whole jazz festival. And I remember, I was in a band called Music of the Spheres, and that's when Johnny and I were living together, and Patrice Fisher and Ramsey McLean.
Oh my
and we
God!
Had this group together called Music of the Spheres, and Frank Stone, he played the symphony, and we used to beat on pots and pans and stuff and sing weird stuff like that. But I said it to say this: the New Orleans Jazz Festival itself was started just for that one reason, for us to have some fun together and play some music, the black people and the white people. Because we would go to each other's clubs and have a good time. And we was doing fine, but stuff around us was really testy. You know what I mean? And it was kind of scary actually. But within the nucleus of us, what we had a camaraderie that was beyond. It was a lot of love. That's what I saw.
Can you share a story of how precarious it would be? Because I just know that Gary Bartz, when he had to go to New Orleans with Max Roach for the first time, they had to stay in the black side of town. When Ellis Marsalis was on tour with this band, with this incredible band, it was a mixed race band, and they'd be in Texas or something, and they'd have to drive him to the black part of town, and but yet you guys were still pursuing. So the New Orleans Jazz Festival gave people an incentive, not an incentive, but it was like finally an opportunity to blend all peoples together and play music and be together.
Right, exactly. Because it was out it was at the Louis Armstrong Park. It was where the first one was. I remember I had band The Third Eye. Oh man, I thought was that shit. But anyway,
yeah, that's burning.
I just remember that the purpose was, because we had camaraderie, amongst our musicians. There wasn't any of that kind of stuff amongst musicians. We loved each other. We played music together. We never thought about none of that. I know I didn't, and people that let me in, they didn't have any qualms about it at all. But we wanted to share that with everybody else.
What was the first year of that festival?
I think it was 1967.
Wow. So that at that point you weren't. I mean, you were what, in
freshman in college.
Wow. And you were in the Third Eye at that time.
But yeah, I got a band again. Well, yeah, I was working with this guy, this rock and roll guy. So all this stuff was going on at the same time. That's what's so crazy about New Orleans. How could you do all these things? Well, it was all going on at the same time. And when I tell you, we worked a gig at not Lewin Charles, that was a jazz gig, but Gino's Back Room. We worked,
oh, man.
And I mean, we played until 7:00 in the morning. When we knew it was time to go home was when we saw the light coming in the back door. and at that time, I mean, all the kids at college, it was, you had to do it. You had to stay up every night until dawn. And people hung out in the streets, but not the way it is now, where it's, oh God.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it comes down to, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but I mean, really at that time, it was still marijuana and LSD was just becoming illegal. Cocaine had not infiltrated our system. Now you just have tweakers running around. It's just a very different vibe now in today's world.
It's dangerous, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's dangerous, but no, actually, no. It was kind of innocent in those days, and my generation, we wanted to try everything out. But the stuff, like you said, the stuff we had to try out wasn't that bad, and those people that were going to be mean people or be ugly people, they just kind of disappeared, But as far as the musicians are concerned, and getting back to the Jazz Festival, I just remember the Jazz Festival being like this big convention where you really got a chance to get together with all your musician friends and say hello, and give them a big hug, and play some music together.
Yeah, you weren't worried about some clan coming in or some idiots, like busted.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not only that, is that there's just so many different types of music that have infiltrated the Jazz Festival, and there's nothing wrong with that. But so many other people have owned the Jazz Festival now, and so it's not the way it was. But I had been or played it every year until 1995. And Charlie Barron, I don't know if you knew Charlie Barron. But
no.
He was the producer at that time, but he passed away, and he was my producer. And so I just kind of lost touch with them people, and then they sold it out to somebody else. I don't know. I can't keep track of all that stuff. It's so huge. It is, and then at the end of the day, it's actually not a pretty small tribe. At the end of the day, when you think about people that attempted and tried and did play the music that they got off on to make a living, as opposed to making a lot of dough and being miserable. I remember Al Boletto
that band at the Playboy Club, I interviewed Hutchinson and rest in peace, Pizzullo, obviously Johnny. At a certain point, it became a little bit. Because I was asking Johnny, we were talking like early 70s. I was like, were you playing like Sly Stone? And he said it was kind of a steady diet. It didn't change up a lot. Not that Boletto wasn't a badass musician, but at a certain point, the band had to come to him and say, this is getting to be a little bit of a drag. And, I just wanted you to talk about how you found the Playboy Club.
Oh, the Playboy Club. I was hanging out with Charlie Brent and Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders.
Oh my God!
Miami, and I got a phone call. It was Johnny. He said, Johnny said, you want to sing this gig over at the Playboy Club? And I went, yeah, I'm coming in. I came back home, and I got to sing a lot of jazz standards, which I had been doing it, all so many years anyway. So it was really a great venue for me to get up there in front of a jazz group and improvise. Was another opportunity to sing with some incredible musicians, Rod Sines and Bill Huntington.
Oh, my Huntington is
Richie Payne. Oh my God. But I was the stand-up singer. They had the comedian would come out. No, I would come out, and then the comedian would come out. I opened for the comedian. In the tent house, the playroom.
Right.
It was a great venue for musicians to make money. We got paid. It was incredible. And Frank Pizzullo, we wrote a whole bunch of songs together. Oh my God, I've got a whole book of songs we wrote together. And I honestly have been practicing and trying to become a better musician just so that I can play and sing them now that he's gone.
Yeah, no, I did.
But we guess about 20 songs. That's a lot of songs. That is the most incredible poetry that I think I've ever written. But that whole situation was an opportunity to learn how to improvise in many different ways. Because there was different musicians that came through there that they all had been trained a certain way, and they all had a little something to give, And if you was a sponge, you could pick up on it. You could.
How did you? You make it sound so easy, but Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders, that was definitely more white, blue-eyed soul and funk. Where did you develop a song? How did you learn all those jazz tunes? Were you actually making up? Were you like embedding yourself with Ella and Sarah Vaughan and Lambert Hendricks and Ross, or were you doing sort of a Mark Murphy thing where you just, like a song, like he just make up lyrics to like Red Clay or something?
No, as far as the writing thing is concerned, I became a songwriter when I was leaving college around that time. Previous to that, the songs that I knew, the standards, which I learned, I learned most of all of those standards when I was playing with the Dixieland band.
And Dunc's Honky Tonk.
Dunc's Honky Tonks, and then I played a lot of casuals, because in those days, the phone would ring, man. Hey man, I got a gig. And it was like a cocktail party. It was a wedding. It was a Saturday night dance. It's just like I was the girl singer in the band. I would show up. I either had my book, or I would sing through whatever book they had. And that doesn't happen anymore. I don't think.
How were you? I'm sorry. You were how old? 11 years old?
No, this is when I was making the transition from high school to college.
Okay, so you were. It wasn't like I was, but you were clearly somebody that they wanted to get. You were somebody that
I was a bimbo in front of the band. Yeah.
No, you could entertain and also sing your ass off. So it was like, and that to me is so, that breeding ground, that farm system is absolutely. That's another thing that's missing today, is just that idea that you would be able to get that kind of experience in front of an audience before you were even in college.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. But, all that said, when I really came on this planet trying to play the piano, which I did get a lot of piano playing in the Dixieland band. But when I got into the swing and and more progressive stuff. And I played a lot of that. But there were so many piano players that were just so much better than me, and I was so much better a singer at that time than I was a keyboard player. And of course, it has been a lot of years since then that I've played a lot of scales and stuff, trying to get my chops together, But back in the day, so like I was a crackerjack singer, and I got a chance to sing with some incredible piano players, and David Torkanowski and Michael Pollara, and all these people. I mean, we got a lot of gigs. I mean, I worked a duo on Bourbon Street with David Torkanowski for how many years, and it's just, you just pick up things in your mind. I mean, I just sang, because I had the ability to travel musically with whoever I was communicating with, because I...
Did you ever do the Delta Queen up the Mississippi? Any of those runs? Johnny was on those runs.
We played the President. I never went... I don't like boats.
No, that was that was like, no, that was the other thing is, did you ever play with Mose Allison?
I never played with Mose Allison, but I loved him so much.
I know.
Johnny, he had his own thing. He's a keyboard player.
He was a singer too, He that dude.
He's doing his own shit.
Yeah, he was doing his own shit. I got to read you this quote from one of my interviews with Johnny, and then you can riff on it. He said, when I was an early teenager, the black culture was part of the white teenager's social life. I'd see R&B bands at the high school gymnasium or the Germania Lodge Hall. Every Friday night they'd have dances there. I'd go to this place called the Sands, and even though I was underage, sometimes I could get in. I saw everybody from Irma Thomas to Ernie Cato to Earl King to Benny Spellman to Jesse Hill. All the cats right up close for 25 or 50 cents. When jazz started to become part of my appetite around 17 years old, I went to see James Moody play at a place called the Jewel Room. Then I'd go to places like Holly's late at night. It was an all-black bar, and I'd go in and get myself a Coke and a bag of potato chips. They knew I was there for the music. I went to Gloria's living room and got to listen to Willie T. and Earl Turbington and George Davis and David Lee playing drums.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to tell you, I
hung out with him on some of those
I want you to talk about, dude, because honestly, I have always loved, for some reason, George Davis wound up on some really amazing funky jazz records in New York, and then as I traced him longer, I looked at one of the first or one of the early Atlantic Joe Zawinul albums, and I turn it over, and George Davis is on there, and he's playing flute, and also David Lee and him played with Dizzy, and I'm like, damn, man, these cats, ridiculous players.
Yeah, and it's all connected.
It's all so, but I want to be clear. Did you ever have the gumption to? You were playing the society gigs and you were playing the socials and the dinner parties, but would you? Johnny was there with a bag of chips and Pepsi. Eventually he probably did get up. He sat next to David Lee, and did you get up? Did you have a formative memory of getting up at a place where and nobody knew who you were, and you just sang your ass off, and it was a major confidence builder for you?
Let's see. When I started hitting those bars, that's when I was hanging out with Johnny. So he used to take me to some of them places. And every once in a while, I remember we used to go to this place. He used to play drums with a dude named Tony Page.
Yeah.
Tony Page was singing, and that was like the stage door, something like that. And
the open door or something.
Yeah, and I would always get up and sing, but I wasn't drinking Coca-Cola and potato chips. I think I was drinking B&B or something like that. So I'm pretty sure it escalated as we got in college. Everybody learns how to drink.
No, to me, it's just. Did you make a? Now this album that I still have never been able to get my hands on, and it was done in Bogalusa '74, Coach's Choice. Was that the first time you recorded in the studio, or were you on demos with other bands before that?
Oh, I did some nondescript stuff, nothing that ever penetrated. But that particular session, those sessions, that was the first sessions they ever did in the studio out in the country.
Okay, so the Bogalusa first session, because that place you can go. I mean, that place is iconic, and you're telling me that was the first session.
Yeah, and then we did the first session ever there. I remember the place very vividly. But then after that, I did a lot of stuff for Epic and for myself. Like,
No, we're not going to jump ahead. We're not going to jump ahead. I'm looking at
okay.
Pazu's Zoo, Trosclair and Pazzulo. Inside of Me. You know, Trosclair, Pazzulo. You do Corazon, Carol. I got to hear that. Jesus. Then you did Donny Hathaway tune. Someday We'll All Be Free. I mean, where was the band? I mean, were you playing Donny Hathaway tunes at the Playboy Club, or did you pull out some of this stuff for the session itself?
Oh no, we did at the Playboy Club. It wasn't a strictly jazz gig. We played jazz, but we were like, and in those days, even Miles Davis did it, and Bill Evans did it too. They would do like tunes that were hits at those times, and we kind of redo them, make them our own.
Oh, I remember George Porter telling me that the Meters early on they took a Stephen Stills tune, and I forget which one it was, but I mean that's a R&B white rock tune, and they turned it upside down and inside out. Miles was doing that, My Funny Valentine, all that stuff,
Yeah. I can't remember one group that I was a complete purist. I really don't think so. Except maybe Woodenhead or something like that.
Look, Pa, No Bra. This is the greatest. Oh, yeah. But I mean, like you would bust like late at night. Maybe you'd bust out that Someday We'll All. That's like I cry every time I hear that song, the Donny Hathaway tune. So like you would. That wasn't something that was like you could pull that off at the Playboy Club.
Well, the Look, Pa, No Bra thing was in those days. You didn't wear a bra and you didn't get married.
Right.
You were hippy dippy. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I did. There's a lot of acid going around. Yeah.
And the whole Playboy Club thing was just so it was comedic and everything. So anyway, he made a joke out of it. He wrote that it's an instrumental. Look, Pa, No Bra. I think he was shooting it at me.
I mean, what do you remember? Like, I think it's so beautiful because I've been catching fire this month, particularly interviewing so many insane musicians, and you're one of them. And do you, as far as the recording of that album, I'm going to go on a limb and say that. Did you everybody hit at the same time, or did you overdub your vocals? I mean, to me, the magic of those recordings.
Oh, no. It's not totally live.
Mm-hmm.
It was we had to overdub things. Yeah, definitely.
Kind of lay down the rhythm section, and then you'd put the vocals on top or something like that?
I'm pretty sure that's the way I did it.
Right.
Now, just knowing, because the studio itself was not really... they needed to tweak it, you know what I mean?
I cannot imagine what that place must have looked like at the opening bell. I mean, it must have been a little...
It's just completely beautiful.
Oh, my God.
So then the guy, Bill Evans was the guy who, not the piano player,
of course.
But Bill Evans,
yeah.
who originally owned the place, but when they first did it, I don't know what it looks like now because I haven't been back down there. Studio, I haven't been there. But, it was a really beautiful, beautiful studio. It was like, oh, my God. But as far as the sound is concerned, it was great. Everything was great. But, it wasn't, we weren't able to do all of that stuff live because of that reason. Because, I can get a better sound. Oh, my God. Oh, God, this didn't go right, And then the instrumentals are good, and you have to come back and do the vocals, So to say that, no, that wasn't.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, these are very minuscule, sort of insignificant things, but just because I'm just curious, like if you remember, I'm sure you were there when the band was laying down the rhythm tracks. Were there any baffles? I can't imagine there being a drum booth.
You had
I should ask Johnny this stuff.
The drum was in a certain, I recall,
mm-hmm.
a triangular shaped area, kind of rural.
But not a booth though, like just sort of like baffled off a little bit to avoid leakage.
Yeah. Really, to avoid leakage. I mean, he was separated, but not totally.
Exactly. We still. I mean, that's the point. Is that like the room? I mean, not to get too far into a tangent here, but it's like that room sound that is so prevalent on so many records.
It's beautiful.
The music breathes, and it's, now with you mic every part of the drum now, and and you just sort of there's no you can't breathe. The music has a hard time breathing. But I have one question left for you in set one, and then we'll definitely do set two in a week or two. Did you make a conscious decision to a certain point because, I mean, let's face it, I mean, so many of your heroes and guys that I aspire to be, I mean, Dizzy made a decent living, Miles, Train, but I mean, there were so many cats, blues singers, jazz artists, because they were playing this very esoteric music, they died broke, they basically... it's always been hard to play this kind of music. Yeah. And I just wonder if you made a conscious decision in the mid-'70s to say, well, I have to figure out a way to keep my integrity and my dignity and look in the mirror, but I also need to become more commercial so I can actually sing for my supper and survive and do whatever, pay my bills.
Well, from playing so many different kinds of gigs, I really had the attitude, a gig's a gig. Let's just go in and do it. Let's do a good job. It's like I sang on I mean, I know that sounds kind of, but I come from a family of 9 and, really on my own. And
dude, I mean, you're fighting for every scrap on the table. I get it.
So, that did sign with Epic, which was basically not a jazz label. But they wanted me, and shoot, man, I needed to take the next gig, And then while I was out there, I sang with a group I sang backgrounds on REO Speedwagon. You tune piano.
I saw that.
And I'm telling you, that was the greatest thing that I did that. I sang a bunch of high C's. I sang high C's for 8 hours. But, I'm so thrilled, because it was a really successful record, and it's really helped me out through my old age now, because
you get the royalties on that.
Still get a little pension, like that's what I call it.
I just want to be clear before we wrap. How did you connect originally with Epic Records?
Okay. I'll tell you this whole go ahead. The spiritual story.
Yeah.
Earl Turbington's brother, Willie T came over to my house. Me and Johnny was living together on Jasmine Street, which is right down the street from Alan Tucson's studio that time. C-San.
Yeah.
I was meditating, and I said, "Oh God, please send me somebody who's gonna be interested in my music." This music I wrote. Anyway, like 2 weeks later, this Clive Fox, he used to be the president of MGM. His father was Harry Fox.
Wow.
Publishing agency anyway. So anyway, he started coming down to Gino's background where we were playing until 7:00 in the morning, and then he brought some record people down and he signed me, and I took my band out to LA, but they were too wild for them, And anyway, I ended up doing the whole thing over and over and over and over again, and whatever. I did whatever I could do. But it still came out being a good record, and I'm still proud of it. But it was overdubbed, my record. But what I'm just saying, I said that I'm getting confused with my own self,
No, it's fine. No, I want to be clear, though. So you guys had developed a reputation as being a pretty cutting-edge, burning band that would play through all hours of the night till the sun came up. And then
Lon Price was on that band, too.
Yeah, I'm still looking for Lon, man. He won't even return my messages, dude. I'm
laughing because I know Lon. He probably don't return anybody.
It's all good. But I know he was a major player. But you're saying you brought Turbington, Willie T, Johnny out there, and it was just...
No, Turbington didn't come out then. Turbington had gone on a real far-out trip before. Because he went way out. we went a certain distance with him, and then we said, "Okay, we got to go this way."
Hold on, was he like walking in the deserts of Egypt? I mean, how out was he? How out was he?
He's out there, man.
Oh,
but he had some good concepts. I don't know if he walked in the deserts of Egypt, but I remember one session that we had with Patrice Fisher out at the studio out in the country.
Yeah.
And we were going to play with Earl, me and Patrice, and when we get out there, and the whole place is filled with pictures of Princess Grace, and there's incense and everything was going on. Just was way too much for me. I didn't know what was going on at that point. That's when we started drifting apart.
Okay, so it became a little bit like there was an impasse, a spiritual sort of impasse, where he had gone a little bit too far out for you guys to be able to truly to relate to him or feel comfortable.
Well, I guess so. I at the time, I just said, wait a minute, this ain't it, But it wasn't. It might have been it, and it just. I do know that he's pretty wild turkey, but what a beautiful sounding horn! I mean, he could play in tune better than anybody I've ever heard. I mean, the way that his intonation on that saxophone, good Lord. But anyway, I remember we were talking about how did this thing happen.
Yeah.
So, this man, Clive Fox, came to my house, and anyway, I signed with Epic about a year and a half after that, and took the whole band out there, and Johnny ended up going to Italy, and I went to LA, and. And anyway, that lasted.
Well, no, but
years.
that I've had that album, and it's so angular and it's so progressive in some ways, and Johnny did play on a few tracks. I mean, I know my dear, rest in peace, Joe Sample's on that album, and there's just Charlie Brent, So, but I mean, the point is that even though there was a little bit of culture shock, and I was the first major record label going out to Los Angeles. I mean, they actually gave you like a budget and an advance, so they treated you okay.
They treated me great. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I looked at that whole thing, which was an incredible opportunity. I was still in that academic frame of mind from leaving college, and it's just like I wanted to meet everybody. So they wouldn't let me use my band. We went down there and put down some tracks, which is, I feel, better than what ended up happening. But, but anyway.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. You cut some tracks, and
with my band, with Gino's background band. And Billy Gregory played guitar on it.
And then they decided they wanted their own Don Felders and Russ Kunkles and all the LA cats to come in, and they redid it all.
Oh, they were going to make a big thing out of me, but they didn't realize every time they did that, it was changing it. But I was just by myself. I didn't know how to control those people, and I was just doing, like I said, I was just still doing gigs. I was still just trying to figure it out. Because then when I got back to New Orleans, when I finally left LA, I ended up with Woodenhead for a couple of years, which was incredible.
Well, no, we'll pick up on that. I when we in part two. Did you like wind up? I mean, outside of the studio work with Speedwagon and your own record, I mean, would you go to Dante's and sing, or would you sing would you play out in L.A.?
Oh yeah. And I remember sitting in at the Sundance Saloon. But it's not there anymore.
Oh my! The Sundance Saloon.
But Bonnie Raitt, we used to go listen to Bonnie Raitt before she became famous, and I actually sat in with her band, and I remember sitting in with some Return to Forever band or something.
Whoa! Wait, hold on. You sat in with. Wait, hold on. Return to Forever band. You told me.
There were people that played they were hanging out that night or having a gig.
Oh, like Stanley Clark and Lenny White and those cats.
Yeah, well, anyway, Alfonso Johnson was the bass player that played him when he was playing with Return to Forever at that time.
You don't know. He was playing with He was playing with Weather Report. Oh yeah, dude. Al Johnson is frontal lobe of my head right now. He's one guy that has continue to evade me. And that's right, he was on. Anyway, we're going to have to break this all down. I got a jam, but Angelle,
Okay, my darling.
I just want to say it's been a long time coming, and I hope that you had a ball, because this is my last interview before I take my older daughter to Princeton. So it's a big new chapter in all of our lives, but I'm really glad that this chapter ends with you.
Oh, wonderful. And she's going to be majoring in what?
She wants to do neuroscience, but I just sort of hope she can be a little bit more open to, like, exploring and doing everything, and I think she will.
Neuroscience, I love it.
Yeah,
I wanted to be a math major, but I ended up getting a music scholarship.
So much mathematics and music, though, it's unbelievable. But much love to you, and I'll text you some interviews with people that are going to really bring a smile to your face.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you called me.
Yeah, absolutely. Plug me in, Jake Feinberg, okay? So I'm not a robocaller, all right?
Okay, I'll plug you in.
All right, much love. Take care.
Okay, same to you.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.